what does China really want in Ukraine? The answer isn't as simple as you might think. Since Russia's invasion, China's role in the conflict has been under a global microscope. Some say Beijing quietly supports Moscow, others argue China is playing both sides. So, what's the real story? Let's start with the basics. China didn't want this war. Before 2022, it got along with both Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine supplied China with vital technology, especially for jet engines. And Russia? That's a massive neighbor, a major trading partner, and a nuclear power. But when Russian tanks rolled into Ukraine, China found itself in a tight spot. On one hand, China's government talks a big game about respecting national sovereignty, something Ukraine lost when Russia invaded. But on the other hand, China sees Russia as a buffer against what it views as Western pressure, especially from the US and Europe. Inside China, there's no clear consensus. On social media, you'll find fierce arguments. Some sympathize with Ukraine, drawing on China's own history of foreign invasions. Others side with Russia, seeing both Moscow and Beijing as targets of Western containment. Even Chinese officials admit there's no unified approach. China's leadership has tried to walk the tightrope. They published a peace plan emphasizing respect for sovereignty and also security concerns for all countries. That's code for understanding Russia's complaints about NATO. Beijing hasn't recognized Russia's annexation of Crimea, but also hasn't condemned Moscow outright. In reality, China's influence over Russia is limited. Sure, Western leaders keep urging Beijing to pressure Putin, but that's just not how China operates. When it's dealing with a partner, it avoids public criticism, even when it disagrees behind closed doors. And while China keeps trading with both sides, its priority is clear stability and its own interests. It wants the war to end, but not at any cost to its ties with Russia. And when it comes to being a mediator, China isn't likely to lead peace talks, more like show up if invited. So, what does China want in Ukraine? Mostly to avoid getting dragged into a conflict it didn't choose. It wants stability, open markets, and a chance to keep building its influence. But as long as the war drags on, China's balancing act is only getting harder, especially with Europe watching closely. In short, Beijing's ambivalence is shaping its role. And for now, that means limiting its involvement, while quietly hoping for an end to the war and a return to business as usual.